Hello, welcome to Taxpayer Alert. We've got quite a few programs now, well over 100, and so apparently we're doing something right. Our purpose is to inform the public of important things that go on in the county, and we try to find people that know something, and it's not me. And the important thing is that we can, in a dialogue, share information where you probably won't find out elsewhere. My name is Al Segalla. I'll be a moderator. I'm also president of the Calaveras County Taxpayer Association. And our guest, and it's like all of our other exciting guests, no exception, is Josh Pack. Josh is our Director of Public Works, and boy, is he doing a good job organizing our county. Welcome, Josh.
Good to see you, Al. Good to see you again.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're fairly new in the county, and you've done a lot.
Yeah, I am pretty new, and it seems like it's been a long time, but I've been here a little over a year now. I started in October 2018, and it's been kind of a whirlwind. It's lots happened, a lot's been going on. We've had, unfortunately, another disaster for Public Works, a winter disaster in 2019, but we've done a lot of good things, I think, in the county over the last year, and real fortunate to be here and continue to enjoy what I do and enjoy working with folks like you and others that I've met here at Calaveras County.
Do you have a family in the county?
I do. I have a family. So right now I live during the week here and really enjoy it. I have a place in Moke Hill and do that. And my family and I are still a little bit in flux right now. And that's a conversation for a different time. So, but yeah, so I spend my weeks here and then and go back home over the weekend. I have a wife and 3 kids. I have twin boys that are 11 years old. And I have a daughter that's 7 going on about 16. So that's got my life pretty busy between those things and then this job, obviously. It's a pretty active life.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it because you're doing a good job for the county. One of the things that I noticed at your introduction to Board of Supervisors is a 5-year plan. Yeah. You have, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of the things when I came here that I recognized that was a need for Public Works to do was to increase our transparency and accountability with the public. And we do a lot of projects. I think we do a lot of good projects that are really beneficial to the community, but we weren't doing the best job at sharing that information, not only with the board, but with the public at large. And so last year we presented the first plan. It was actually one of the first actions that I took here as the Public Works Director. And this year's plan, it's nice now to have your kind of sea legs underneath you. It's year 2 of this plan that kind of outlines the construction activities that Public Works will be working on over the next 5 years. And so overall, it's a shade under $98 million, which for smaller rural counties like Calaveras, it's a pretty aggressive, pretty robust program. It's funded primarily through federal grants, through other restricted revenues that are meant for specific projects, either bridge replacements or safety projects, things like that, Wagon Trail project. We're excited because it's really it lines up the funding and makes sure that the funding's available for the projects. It adequately addresses resources, so whether it's manpower needs, whether it's construction needs through the outside contracting community, whether it's funding needs, it's a really good document for us to, as a guidepost, to guide our work in the county, highlight the priorities in the county for not only for the board but also for its residents, and also for just for the public at large. And it gives the public an opportunity to review and see the work that we're doing and making sure that we're meeting their needs. One of the key things this year that we did not have in last year's program is a 5-year paving program that's brand new. The impetus behind that and the reason behind that was because prior to 2017, we didn't have enough money to do much in the way of paving. So the county didn't have a paving program because we didn't have any money to pave. And so, despite a lot of frustration with the gas tax and appreciate that side, one thing it does help for us is it guarantees about $4.5 million a year in funding directly attributed to paving. And so, one of the things we needed to do as Public Works to share with, especially with in the public, is we needed to have a plan on how to spend that, because if we spend it based on who calls the most or who complains the most, that's not a good policy on how to spend money. We needed to have a plan, a thoughtful and intelligent plan on how to spend that money, realizing that even with this new money, it's not enough to really address the community's needs and the community at large. And as you are very familiar, the community of Calaveras County is made up of a lot of smaller communities, all have very distinct and different needs. And so one of the things I'm proud of the team that I've worked with, and not only with our staff, but with our consultants, is to come up with a impartial process to really highlight what those needs are over the next 5 years. So it's something I'm excited about. And again, I've had conversations with the public, and they ask where my road's here, why my road's not there. And I think the thing the plan highlights is that there are a lot of needs and there's not enough to go around, but we're doing our best we can to focus our needs on those roads most in need. So it's something I'm proud of. We've got a lot of safety projects, a lot of bridge projects to address bridges that are structurally deficient. A lot of the Wagon Trail project on State Route 4 is a major project that's been on the books for a lot of years. We've completed some projects in the last year that I'm really proud of. The plan kind of highlights that and closes those projects out. So overall, it provides a really good guidepost for us moving forward, not just in the last year, but moving forward over the next 5 years.
Now, the Wagon project, that's a state highway?
It is a state highway, yeah. And so one of the things we do is, especially with the state and their priorities, sometimes we need to come in as a local agency and highlight that this is an important project to us. And so it's something we've done. We're working with the Calaveras Council of Governments. We're working with Caltrans as partners. We're partnering together. Our funding is kind of a mix of hodgepodge of different funds, federal, state, local funding, but all realizing that there's a lot of collisions on Wagon Trail, especially the section south of Angels Camp, between Angels Camp and Copperopolis. Yeah. There's improvements that are needed, and we're stepping forward to try and tackle the worst of those problems first, and hopefully over time address that corridor as a whole.
Okay, so you don't have to dedicate staff for that other than yourself or top-level management to communicate with Caltrans and COG and the state highway as to what's most important.
Yeah, one thing that we do, and I think it's an appropriate model for Calaveras County, and I can speak as someone who went through the recession as a manager and had to make difficult decisions on hiring, and one of the things a lot of agencies have done to change their model of the way to deliver projects is post-recession is we recognize in Calaveras County that we can't be the expert in everything, right? We're the jack of all trades, master of none. So, we're pretty good at managing consultants. We're pretty good at taking projects from A to B, but the nuts and bolts, the specific design, the very heavy engineering that takes months or years and takes a lot of staff effort, for us, the model that works best for us is to hire those through consultant services. Right. And so we hire those to provide those specialized services. We provide the oversight and management of those to make sure that they're doing the work properly, make sure that they're performing in an adequate time frame and doing what they need to do. Same with construction. We contract those out to the construction community and build those with, in many cases, local contractors. And so it's a real good model that works for us that as our workflow kind of ebbs and flows and gets real heavy in the summer and maybe it's a little quieter in the winter, it's a good way to meet those ebbs and flows without having to hire new people and then let them go and then hire them and then let them go, this kind of cyclic sort of thing that doesn't really work well for morale. It doesn't work well for employees. It's not a really sustainable model. So for us, it's a really good model to keep people busy and at the same time meet the community's needs when those increased needs occur.
So would you handle like contract administration and design, or would you be contracting out for that as well?
Yeah, so most of the time we handle the administration for most projects. And I So my days of being a project manager are probably behind me. I have a lot of, we have all said probably somewhere between 80 and 85 employees. So a lot of my day-to-day stuff's dealt with dealing with the needs of staff and making sure they have the resources they need, dealing with other departments, department heads, working with the CAO's office and board, et cetera. We do have a lot of very capable people. In the case of Wagon Trail, because the project is so complex and so big, we do have in that case a project administrator. We've hired them as an outside consultant who's very well versed in projects dealing with Caltrans and various funding sources. So that's a unique one. Usually most of our projects are small enough or specific enough that we handle those ourselves and have our own project administrator. And usually it's not a significant cost. And a good project manager can have 5 to 10 or more projects at the same time running those concurrently. This is a little bit unique just because of the size and scope of the project and the players in it. It really needed someone that had that expertise.
All right, so the 5-year plan not only is about the work that's done, funded by the state and federal governments for bridges and things like that. It also involves your road maintenance, which is mostly paving and culverts and things like that. Are there other things? Did Public Works get involved with buildings and construction of buildings? And
yeah, a little bit. So, obviously we have a building department, so they handle most of the stuff with building. The thing that Public Works helps with is grading. So a lot of times, especially with lots that have significant dirt that needs to be either removed or added, we'll be involved with that. We'll take a look at the grading side of things. We're also the stormwater permitting arm of the state, so we make sure that stormwater quality is acceptable. Obviously, if you're doing construction on a site and you've got free-flowing water running off and collecting all sort of pollutants and going right into the drainage system, that's not a good thing. And so the state's tasked us to being their arm to kind of maintain and make sure that that's being handled properly through things called best management practices, devices, whether it's wattles or other sort of, erosion control measures, et cetera.
Little straw tubes.
Yeah, straw tubes, exactly. The long straw tubes that act to help, clean the water as it flows off. And so that's part of our job. We don't get involved much beyond that. We have engineering expertise, but there's also building takes a lion's share of the stuff relating to building. So
now in paving roads, has there been really a lot of breakthroughs on better ways to pave roads over the last 10, 20 years, or is it pretty much the way it's always been?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've been looking for the silver bullet for probably 50 or 60 years or more. Ever since they created pavement, we've been looking for ways to do it cheaper, do it better. And unfortunately, as you look at the world, and there's a lot of what I call snake oil out there. There's a lot of products that claim to be the cure-all, much like diet fads, right? There's tons of diet fads, and most of them don't work. So it's similar for pavement. So we've been looking and pursuing. In my history, I've tried a few. 1 or 2 have worked. A couple haven't. It's part of the gig. You try the best you can. You make the most educated effort. But in reality, there hasn't really been a solution that's really stepped to the forefront in the last 20 years that, for most cases, this works. In reality, that you have a lot of tools in your toolbox. Some work better than others. One of the things focusing on in our program is really focusing on roads that we call at risk or borderline. Traditionally you'd think, well, you take your list and you get the worst roads first and you take care of those. In reality, if you take a road that's at risk or in borderline status, that's in danger of falling into a poor, failed state, you can pave or resurface 5 times as many roads as you could with a road that's failed. And so in reality, for us perspective,
you have to go from scratch.
You have to go from scratch. You have to either do what's called a full depth reclamation. You have to tear it out, put in a new one. I mean, the whole system's failed. We can do what's called slurry seals, chip seals. I love a process called micro seals, which is kind of a fancier, or a microsurface, which is a fancier slurry seal. Those surfaces can be done a lot cheaper. They don't last quite as long, but when you look at the best bang for your buck, trying to protect roads that are in borderline shape for us is the best path for us in the future, because I can go out and hit 5 miles of road, make sure those are protected over the next 10 to 15 years versus a road that's failed. I might be able to get a mile of that done, and then as you do that, as you're trying to do this mile at a time, all these other roads that are in kind of borderline shape, they fall into a state of disrepair, and then you start chasing your tail, right? No matter how far you get, there's this backlog that keeps happening. So one of the recommendations we've made to the Board of Supervisors, and they've agreed, is really focusing on these roads that are at that at-risk category, these kind of borderline roads that are still pretty decent, but they need some sort of immediate attention to make sure they don't fall into a worse condition. Some of the other priorities, focusing on busy roads, what we call collector roads or major collector roads, roads that provide regional significance, realizing that we want to focus on roads that serve hundreds or thousands of vehicles a day and maybe not dozens, and that doesn't, again, not saying that these roads don't need attention, but when you're looking at, in reality, we have essentially $1 to spend on $5 worth of needs. And so how do you stretch that dollar as best you can? How do you use that dollar? And so the focus and the idea is to get as many roads as we can, and by focusing on those busy roads that are lower elevation, we think that that's the key to the best bang for our buck with the money we do have.
I understand that they have machines now that then go through, take the existing bad pavement, and then crunch it up, and then put it back, and then create a new base for roads?
Yeah.
Or can that material also be mixed to be an AC, like asphalt cement?
Yeah, there is some different technologies you can use, and there's about 60 of them. But one of the cool things we're looking at, and it falls under what's called cold in place recycling or full depth reclamation, where you can actually go in over a certain depth and do the same thing. You grind it all up and you grind it into small chunks.
Right.
And then when you relay it out with a roller, you can actually roll it out and it becomes new road base.
Right.
The other thing we're looking at, and this is, again, is it snake oil? Is it a new product that could be revolutionary? We don't know yet. It's called lithification. And so we're looking at this alternative where you can add this additive to your ground up material, and it hardens over, normally a natural process that would take centuries or millennia or many thousands of years to do. It happens in the matter of hours or days.
Wow.
And the process leaves an extremely hard surface, basically pavement-like conditions. And so now you're getting a new surface out of it, and you have to protect it. So you come over the top with like a thin overlay or a chip seal or some sort of surface. But that's an option we're looking at. And we're actually kind of, right now what we're doing is we're looking at a test case, and we've sent it out to contractors across the United States asking for these sort of innovative solutions. And Jesus Maria Road is a road we're looking at. It's a road that is a regional road. It's critically important. It was at the epicenter of the Butte fire. It carries not a lot of traffic. It doesn't carry as much as some of our other major roads, but nevertheless, it's a significant connector, in particular in the case of emergencies. And so the road is old. The road does not have a lot of road base. It's pretty thin. It's pretty beat up. And so we're looking at that as an opportunity to try things, because we have to. The situation we're in, we can't go with the same old, because we just don't have enough money to get everything done what the public expects. So we're looking at Jesus Maria, and we're asking for contractors to give us your best plan. We've reached out to them and said, give us your best plan. Let us know what you think you can do here. And that should be in January, and then we're going to review those, see what sort of results come out. And it's part of what I don't geek out a lot. I don't get an opportunity to really kind of get excited that often. A lot of what I do is, management stuff that's kind of boring. But, getting to see these new technologies and have people give us presentations, and maybe having an opportunity to try something that hasn't been done much, and doing it in Calaveras County where it could be a solution to our problems down the road, is something that's really exciting to me. And there's no guarantee it's going to work. We're going to do all of our due diligence, use all of our very best skills to make a thoughtful and intelligent choice. And there may not be a solution. We may look at the solutions they provide and go, well, there really isn't something here that's worth the risk of trying, and we'll go to a more conventional technique. But those are a couple of things we're looking at. And there's lots of other stuff too out there. And that's the thing. The hardest part for us is kind of separating the wheat from the chaff. It's figuring out what's the good stuff and what's the snake oil.
Sometimes you don't know, because you might have a procedure to do a new type of paving, but you don't know how long it's going to last, for sure.
Yeah.
Until the time marches by.
It does. And and there's so many things that affect pavement. Drainage is a huge impact on pavement, weather conditions.
Right.
Roads in the higher elevations who experience significant freeze-thaw experience very differently than lower elevations.
Right.
Heavy loads, if you have a lot of propane trucks and garbage trucks and the UPS guys there every day, those sort of things have an impact on roads that you can't measure in hours or days. It takes years. And so, even these new technologies that are very promising, they may not have enough of a track record that you have some assurances that they're going to work. And even if you have assurances, your unique situation may not be the most optimal solution. So, we do the best we can. We're pretty smart about it. We do our due diligence. We call, we reach out to other agencies. We ask what they've done. We have a good, I'm involved with a statewide group that's really active in this sort of thing. And so we all reach out to each other and talk, and that's the best tool. It's really talking with our peers to make sure that what we're trying, making the best decision we possibly can.
Is there a Public Works Association?
There is, and so I belong. There's a number of them. So whether it's the American Public Works Association or the American Society of Civil Engineers, so I'm active in a group called the County Engineers Association of California. I'm actually a regional chair for an 11-county region here in the foothills, Amador, Tuolumne, Sacramento, Placer, Nevada, so Yuba. So there's a lot of different counties as part of that. And so I'm involved in that group, and so I get to see a lot of things, and we meet every 3 or 4 months, and I'm involved with the state efforts there. So I see everything from the federal legislative side to kind of the new techniques. So it's a really good platform, and I think one of the reasons I got involved with that is, there's a certain prestige of being involved with that, and having Calaveras County kind of at the forefront of some of these things. It creates a certain prestige and a certain level of credibility in the engineering and the public works community for Calaveras County, which I think is well deserved. It should be there. I think we do a lot of good things, and we should be sharing that with our peers.
Now, you have a new system that you've done where people can, if they have a problem on a road near them, they could contact you. And you've got a computer follow-up. Can you explain that? Yeah,
so it's a system, and I think we may have talked about it in our last time, but we were in our infancy. So we have a system called My Calaveras County, and I'm really excited about it. It's a system we went live in April. We've since been rolling it out, not only on our website, but also if you have a smartphone, if you have an iPhone or you have an Android device, you can download the app for free. And it's a great way for residents to engage with us with their day-to-day concerns. If you see a pothole, if you see a sign down, if there's a dead animal on the road, in the old days, you make the call, right? You call us and you don't know what's going on, right? Hopefully we get to it. In our case, sometimes the call will go to 2, 3, 4, 5 people. If the second or third person in the line's on vacation for a week and the person who made the call doesn't know that, you may have a really important issue, a pothole that needs immediate fixing or some sort of immediate safety thing, and it doesn't move. It doesn't happen. And so, not that, and I think one thing that I want to highlight is we want to fix these things. We want to know about them, and the public is our best resource. We have about 30 permanent road maintenance workers to cover more than 700 miles of road that we maintain. That's not a sustainable model to proactively identify issues as they occur. So we really rely on the residents and the public to be our eyes and our ears and to let us know what happens. And so residents can put these requests in. They can call us. They can still call us through the traditional way, but if folks who are really engaged, they can actually sign up for, when they sign up for their request, they can sign up for the service and get real-time alerts via email when we've solved an issue, if we need to delay it for some reason. Sometimes we get requests that are just, a little outside either our abilities to do timely or just
like
a little too
animal?
big.
Well,
dead animals are good. We do that. We actually do that on county roads. We'll remove dead animals. So that's a quick one. But like for example, we may get a call in July to fix a drainage issue, and drainage issue, whether it's July, usually, especially with how busy we are, catching up. This last year's been historically busy. That might be something we wait till October to do. Not because it's not important, but because it's just there's not enough time. Or sometimes we get requests that, pave 5 miles of road. Well, we we'd love to pave 5 miles of road, but that's a $1 million job, and that's not something we can really get to in a timely manner. And so those are the sort of things. But residents can now, they're not left wondering what happens. They can see what happens. They may not agree with it. They may want it done now, and we can't get to it now. They may not be happy about that, but at least they know what the status of their request is. So it's something that, like I said, it really improves our engagement. And then the cool thing about it is when you make that request, it goes to the person directly. So the road worker who's responsible for that area within 3 to 5 seconds gets the email with the alert to tell him what the request is. Yeah. And so how great is that? Instead of taking days or weeks, you now get it in a matter of seconds. Right. And so just naturally, it allows us to be more proactive and responsive to these requests.
That's pretty cool.
I think it is too.
I wonder if other departments can pick up that model. Well, I guess the Sheriff's Department has something similar where they keep track of calls pretty closely. Yeah. One of the things that you do in road maintenance, you have your own crews, and then also you have the opportunity on occasion to contract out. Mm-hmm. And you do that, I take it, when you have more than your in-house workload can do?
Yeah, and there's a couple of different things with that. So first of all, our guys are amazing. They do really good work. I mean, how proud I am of them this last winter with all the storms. We had 41 straight days of overtime work. That's 24-hour-a-day shift every day. Snow removal, dangerous conditions. I mean, it can be taxing and wearing on anyone. Our crews made it through in flying colors. And so we can do a lot of things really well. But, some major projects, especially really large projects, like if you're doing $1 million paving job or a bridge replacement, that's either not in our wheelhouse, not something we have the skill set, or, in the terms of taxpayer money, it makes more sense to hire someone with that expertise to do it. So major bridge projects, really large paving projects. I mean, we have a paving machine. We can do a half mile. We can do a quarter mile. That's in our wheelhouse. But if we're looking at doing, 10 miles or resurfacing 30 miles of road, it makes sense for us to contract that out. And there's also state laws that say over a certain amount, over a certain threshold of value of work, you really should be contracting that out. And so we balance the need. We balance we have a lot of maintenance needs. And so we try to balance the need to use contractors when necessary. And again, that helps us kind of those ebbs and flows, the really big projects. We're not hiring, our own staff and then having to let them go 3 months later. That does nobody any good.
We got 1 minute for long-term vision.
Okay, for 1 minute, huh? I think the key thing for us in the future is road safety. Between 2006 and 2017, Calaveras County has the third worst collision rates for fatal and severe injury accidents.
Oh, no.
We're not alone. It's not the fault of public works experts or anything else. Mariposa, Tuolumne, Amador are all in the top 10 of this kind of nefarious list. But I think the next wave for us is to look at safety projects and other projects to reduce collision accidents and increase public safety. I'm excited about it. This next year, there'll be a series of grants coming out we'll be aggressively pursuing. I think my goal in the next 5 years is to reduce fatal accidents and overall accidents by 25% and fatal and severe injuries by 50% in the next 5 years. I think it's very doable.
Well, that's so cool. So glad you're here, and I'm so sorry we run out of time.
No worries. I'll be back very soon, anytime you want.
Thank you very much.
Al, good to see you again.
And thank you for watching Taxpayer Alert.